You have all of them? Is there some motions over there? No, they were there. I gave them to you. The agenda. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order.
Be resolved that in court, oh, no. Be resolved that the special meeting of the Council of Corporation of the Township of Essignac be open for business at 7 p.m. with a quorum of members present with Mayor Reed presiding in the chair.
It's moved by Councillor Elliott and seconded by Councillor Bowen. All those in favor? We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional lands of the Three Fires Confederacy, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi peoples of the Mindy-Mincing. We recognize and deeply appreciate the stewardship and historic connection to this place, and recognize that we must do more to learn about its rich history so that we will better understand our role as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. Okay, I'll remind you if you have pecuniary interest, you can declare it now or at the time of the crisis, and the reason for doing it. We have no announcements, so we're going to go right on to our budget discussion tonight. Okay. Start by going to page 2.
You can have an amendment to the budget.
I'm sorry. I skipped the agenda. Sorry. We'll have that.
To be it resolved that we approve the agenda as amended, and it's moved by Councillor Bowerman, seconded by Councillor Elliott.
Okay, and that's to add an in-camera session. All those in favor? That's carried. I apologize for that. And no announcement, so we'll go in. Okay, on page 2, you'll see that Deb has tried to calculate everything in that she can. And you'll see that it's currently calculated as 7.9% increase in the tax rate. She has not included any capital items. So if you go to, I think it's page 7. These are all the things that are not calculated in yet. A new website at 25,000, landfill expansion, salary adjustment, washrooms for McLean's Park and High Falls, security cameras at the landfill, the plow truck pickups that we had discussed, the repayment of reserve for Red Lodge Road, and then the fire hall tender, sander for pickup, new water tank for trucks for dust suppression, backhoe AAEC, which is the theater building, start a reserve for the accounting software, and the roads that are desperately in need of a little bit of work, which is Michael's Bay Road, part of it, Sprague Street, and Queen Street needs a little bit. So, and then summer students, 3 people. I'm not sure where you want to go with this.
Well, hard to go anywhere because we don't, I mean, there's very few numbers, so.
And there's no capital expenditures this year.
Yeah.
So some of those things in those items, are they not covered under grants already? Like the purchase of the new water tanks for the truck was under a grant that was recently, it was not?
That's a different tank.
Was it?
Yeah, this is one that, Steve is suggesting to be able to use on the roads instead of.
Oh, okay, so not for the.
Yeah, the one was potable water.
Before we really get into it, is there a way that we can invite Impact to come here and do a talk so that ratepayers can see and hear for themselves what Impact has to say, instead of just hearing it from us as we, hear it from them? I think it's been quite some time since Impact was here. And I think it'd be worthwhile while we're going over these budgets and trying to explain to people. It'd be much easier to hear from the source, I think, regarding assessments and that sort of thing.
We can do that. I think, most people realize that their assessment hasn't gone up in quite a while.
Yes,
So if their assessment doesn't go up, their taxes don't go up unless we put them up.
and I think people understand that, but I think that they're not understanding why it's taking so long. And again, to hear it from us who've heard it from them, it'd be if we could invite them to come, if they would come, so that they can do a presentation like DSAP did for us to explain. It comes straight from them and they're hearing it straight from them instead of relying on us.
But we can invite them.
Thank you.
So Impact hasn't done a reevaluation since 2016. But we're actually paying them $40-some thousand in this year's budget every night. So how do you hold them accountable to come and do an assessment?
I don't believe we can hold them to account. I believe Impact would like to do a reassessment. They've been told by their political masters, we're not doing one. Because I think they were set to do one in 2024. And the new government said, no, we're waiting.
On whatever.
Yeah,
So what happens if their funding stream stops?
Impacts.
Yeah. Well, we quit funding them. They're not offering, we're paying them for a service we're not getting.
We're paying them for a service we're not getting in full. They're still delivering the assessment role. They're still adding new properties to it. They're still correcting problems that we're finding. But no, they're not giving us a full reassessment. I believe, and I'm probably going out on a limb, so if I go too far, yank me back. But I believe the province's attitude is, we make that decision, you quit paying us, we deduct that from your grants.
Transfer.
Yeah.
So,
You'll see that our assessment did go up, I believe, 2%, about 2%. So we are picking up some of the new builds.
So I do agree with Jen, it would be nice for the ratepayers to hear from Impact, but I'm not sure they're gonna hear anything. Cause they don't know and we don't know at this point because it's.
No, I agree with Jen. I think it's worth having them here. Let them do the presentation, let them tell us whatever they can in terms of what the province has said about when they might schedule a reassessment.
And I just want to reiterate at this point that if the reassessment is done and we take a look at what it brings in and we don't need that money, then the rates come down.
Yeah, actually.
The tax rate, exactly.
Yeah.
The tax rate comes down.
And I think people need to know that, and I do think most people do understand that. But again, I think it's accountability for Impact to come and explain it themselves instead of through a second hand. It's like a game of telephone. I'd like to hear it right from the source.
Okay. So any of these items that we add on are going to increase the budget or the rate, the increase
do
more.
we need to make a decision on if we're going to go ahead with that? You're going to go ahead and invite Impact?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Are we able to use the factor that 2% increase representing about $29,000 or $30,000?
1%. 1% is about 30,
One
yeah.
percent. That's something fun for their money, having extra numbers.
Yeah.
30,000.
So I think we basically have to start, well, when we took the money out of the reserve for Red Lodge Road, it was under the understanding that it would go back in. That was passed by motion, I believe. So that one actually does need to go back in.
And it would be 16,000 approximately.
16. New website.
For the new website, in the, reserves, we have, I think, under IT, we have some money. Can that be used for the website?
Set up intention to have a push in there in case we ended up with server issues, which has happened to us good while. And I don't think 14,000 would cover that if we had to replace it. So, okay, yeah.
Now, sometimes websites can be looked at what is enhancement, right? So to me, that would be something that we might be wanting to send our EDO after, looking for some funds, some support. That to me would be something we received that in the past years gone by.
I'm not, sorry, I'm not sure because websites are so commonplace now, if the funding would be available, right? Where before it was kind of an initiative to, I think, to.
Yes, now.
promote it. I mean, certainly we could try, but.
But
They,
technological enhancement is something that might fit under a category, maybe perhaps with federal or something to that effect, I'm not sure. But I'm just saying worth exploring, right? Before we go.
There's nothing on this list that we shouldn't be looking at for a grant, to be honest.
If there.
Fill her up with work to look for grants for anything on there.
We should be doing that all along, or about that.
Absolutely.
she does have this list.
And I'm under the impression that the current website is so outdated, it has to be a complete rebuild. It's not.
Yeah, we can.
You can't just fix it.
It's about 14 years old.
Give, permission to go with tender on that, on the, did we get any tender packages back?
They're coming in, I don't think it's closed yet, though. I'll have some-
Today.
Today closes. Okay, yeah.
We might have a better understanding how much money that's actually gonna cost versus the full 25.
Or more.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of just a ballpark, right?
Washington Plains Park and High Falls, did we not get funding for those?
Not yet, but she's still looking for those. We actually found, I had something sent to me and they're called Eco, what are they called, Eco Toilet or something to that effect. It's like, like a composting toilet. And he makes this company send me the email about it, and he actually makes them for parks and trails and that type of thing. So we'll get Shelba to look into that. I just got it, so we'll get her to look into that and maybe see, because it's composting and it's an eco thing, maybe there might be funding for that, a grant, but she can look for that.
The High Falls restroom was paid for by the province several years ago as well. It was about $25,000, I think. At the time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Plow truck concerns me. There is nothing in this budget for repayments on the plow truck that we are receiving this year.
Yeah.
Which puts us another 5 years to pay it off, which puts us 7 years behind when we should have been replacing the yellow truck. See, like we're going backwards. I really think we should be putting money in for the payments on the plow truck this year.
I thought we did last year when we ordered it.
No, no, there's been no payments for way towards it.
It's set to come out of reserves and then we'll budget to
Put it back
Put it
in.
back in,
And how much was the total?
355.
And how long should we take to put it back into reserve?
We planned on 5.
Yes.
So what would that look like on here?
71,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
71,000 annual.
What page is that on? I know the number, but I can't, I don't see
Oh, it
it.
was on the long term.
Okay.
Section.
Okay.
Page before the one. $76,500.
Yeah, sorry. Let's get that.
I have a couple of concerns here on what's on here as well, if I could bring those up.
Yeah.
The roller mills building, I know we were talking about expansion and all that other stuff, but from what I can see and from what, ratepayers have mentioned, we need to do something immediate for that building. We can't just leave it the way it is indefinitely until we can afford it. We need to figure out how to at least fix it so that it's not an embarrassment on the waterfront for the time being. Unfortunately, the siding is beyond repair. I think it's worth looking at just to get the siding off of it, so it's not flapping in the wind half the time. Certainly. And also our town signs, I know we've discussed it in branding, that sort of thing, but in the meantime, they need to be replaced. Top of the line, each would be about $3,500. The last ones we got have been up there for about 24 years.
That money we should go into like a branding account, like come out of it.
Yes.
But we didn't add any money for branding this year. I didn't think we had the money in there, but
No, but for $7,000 to get top of the line,
so which town sign?
the big ones that have the NORAD on them still, the one is falling apart. They're both incredibly faded.
Yeah,
The highway signs, and I think if we want to have any kind of town pride, our signs have to look a little bit nicer.
okay. Anything else?
The beach stairs, I know we've got the 55,000 in here from, I believe that was from last year again, but.
It's been in the water.
And why haven't we acted on that? Is it gonna go, do you think it'll go above and beyond that cost?
But this,
Yeah.
concrete.
So we approved it the last 2 years to be done. Why was it never done?
I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay, no, that's the answer. That's good. It's a shame to see the money still sitting there to the point where you might end up starting to take it from there to put it somewhere else. Now you've got a mess there. It's only getting worse. It's becoming a bigger and bigger safety issue.
We obviously don't have a huge amount of money to do a huge amount of things, but if we've already got the money to at the very least take out the danger. We need to do that.
I think that should be one of the top of the list, but
Well, I think we hadn't really decided what we wanted. Like what, because we had talked about, just ramping some of it down instead of the stairs, or just replacing the stairs that are there. But to my recollection, we never actually decided which way we were going.
I had suggested that the last time, which we weren't all in agreement on. Because it was the motion of going complete concrete all the way top to the bottom. Still because of the slope, you're going downstairs and you want, certain element of slope and then stairs again, like it happened. So I suggested maybe consider putting some landscaping in as well, that way so it's partial straight over path. People, it's never going to be accessible, really.
No,
It's more for getting mobile people. And so if we look at it that way, we might find the cost savings measure that way as well. And, if we're working with our public works department, there's a lot of things that we can do in-house with landscaping. I think.
but we would need somebody to plan it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I would like to see us stay with full concrete steps the full way. There's been a push to do sidewalks throughout the community and stuff, and this is one of the ones that's gonna get a lot of the traffic, and I would suggest that we stay with what we have, just have it built up to a new standard and replaced.
I think the cost to do that, Wayne, would be 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, but you don't know, because when we did this last time, we had a quote that said that we would actually be able to get it done for $55,000. So unless we talk to somebody and ask for another quote, we don't know.
I think we should look for a quote with options. And then that way we can make an advised decision.
Yeah, that'd tear them out all completely and remove the $5,000 from the budget.
No, it's no cost to take it out.
We're not building community, we're destroying community, and I think that we better up to build community than take away.
I think if we're gonna go for a quote, we go for a quote with options. Yeah, give us a full quote of full concrete, but give us a quote with full partial concrete, partial path to see if we can get it to come in close to that.
I think you just patch it when you're doing it that way, but absolutely,
At least we'd be doing something.
Mhm.
we haven't done anything with them for 3
We
years.
have communities and find scenarios just like that, you know, that build into a very nice environment. And so that's all part of, you know, making the community and the waterfront a more pleasurable area. And safe.
The next thing, are we having to have it engineered, path and all that engineered? Like,
Well, we might have to have it engineered anyway, as far as I'm concerned, as far as to meet certain requirements with regards to, slope, et cetera, rise and slope, all of that. So we're gonna have to adhere to that anyway. So whoever's gonna be looking at to put it in, we're gonna have to make sure that it's gonna comply to those regulations.
Absolutely.
So
Yes, but what I'm hearing is we have $55,000. We're not spending any more than $55,000, right?
we can't afford it.
Well, no. So I think we need to come to a decision. Are we going out and just getting the quote and looking at it? Like, 'cause we're going to have to take the money, if it has to be engineered, the money has to come out of the 55,000 for the engineer.
Yes,
Is that what you want to do?
Do we need an engineer or can we get a quote and then they have, like if a builder is building a set of stairs, he has to be up to code. So if we get a quote from, 3 different people, we pick which one we think, they have to go according to whatever the specifications are.
They would have standard kits.
Yeah.
mhm.
I'm going to look at that with options on design.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Design in
absolutely.
details, like partial path, how it's gonna be constructed, along with steps, that again is gonna be.
Let's eliminate the cost of the engineer.
Yeah,
Well, they become a liability now. If we don't fix them, we're gonna have to hold that until we're.
and the other thing too, to note about it is that part of the base could be used as an existing base to build.
Yeah.
Right? So rather than letting out, build on top.
Mhm.
And so.
Agreed.
And then that way we're saving money. That's the, I would rather see us move forward, build something, but save money in the process.
Oh, absolutely. We're all that.
So if we look for options, if we can all agree to look for options, then that would be the best thing to do with regards to that budget item. I think.
It's gonna be a difficult year because we're already facing huge tax increase and there is no capital money in this year's budget at all.
No,
So,
no, there's nothing
So, in speaking on that, the unallocated capital, what is that? Unallocated capital? No, I had asked you earlier that it's $321,588. And it's just sitting there, it's,
A couple of years. Until, well, they didn't decide on what projects they want, but this is what they want. They become that, so this money was left there, unallocated capital,
okay,
and this is what's left. It's not really earmarked for anything that,
So that could be moved to anything or no?
up to you.
We need to look at priorities first, all of our priorities
Absolutely.
within all the line items, before we look at building and want to touch that.
Absolutely.
oh, absolutely, but I'm just saying to have that amount of money and then saying, well, we need to raise taxes so we can pay for these things, when you have this much sitting there that might be able to pay for something else. To me, we should be looking at that, even though I understand the necessity to have reserve. We also are at a point where we have to be able to pay for some things. I think for a long time, things were put off, and now we're in a situation that we're in where so much is broken. So much needs to be replaced at once. We need to actually be able to do that.
We also have 231,000 sitting in the post office building. Well, we don't need a post office building reserve any longer. We don't own the building. 14,000 in IT, 6,718 in library expansion.
I
Are
don't
we
think,
expanding the library?
well, sometimes we use it for, repairs, that type of thing too.
Should we change the name to repairs then? I don't, like, I was like, oh, are we expanding the library?
Like, if we're gonna start ripping down our reserves, I am really not really comfortable with this, but.
They're not saying rip it down, but I mean, we definitely don't need it under post office building.
No.
Okay, but we're not taking money out of IT because that's in case the servers and stuff go down up there, so that one's not being touched.
There's one question I have. I mean,
Yeah,
the SRA COVID fund. What was that? That was that house?
This money we received from the province to help offset operating costs that increased during COVID,
Right.
like for extra cleaning and stuff, and then we were told after it was done, any money that was left over had to go into a reserve to be used for any future COVID-related expenses that may come up.
Well, then, so would COVID related items typically are dealing with isolation and working from home, et cetera. Wouldn't that be something that could be married to the website? Ultimately, we're talking about? That's something you think might become applicable? Is that
And capital, yeah.
It's just strictly
It's,
capital.
no, you can't, it's operating expenses.
Okay.
Yeah, website's capital.
Good to know. Thank you.
I agree, we need to keep the reserve funds. What I'm just looking at IT, I don't think that's enough. I think that that's not nearly enough. If there's something that goes wrong, $14,000 isn't gonna cover it. I would suggest, if we're gonna be looking at the reserve, to take some of the reserve that's unallocated. If we can we move some of that to IT to make sure that there is enough in place if there's a disaster? Because as we've been discussing, if we can't even get into, televise our meetings because of a small glitch, if a big glitch happens, we're gonna be putting all this money into a website, all these things, so that people can do it with the technology that we have available, and then something happens to IT we can't afford to fix. So I would suggest moving some into that and increasing that.
I wouldn't really worry about moving reserves right now. Like, technically, if there's a problem with the IT department, Deb can take it, capital, at the time when we need it. You're just moving stuff around in this small document. It's not making any difference to the setback that we're here to find 8%.
we can move it around with a motion from council.
Yes.
I just want to make that
Yes,
clear.
you're right.
And we've had a case in the past where I put that question to Deb, and that's where she comes up with it.
That's right.
So I agree with that process.
Yeah, what is BWT?
Either.
Okay, thank you.
I think we need to go ahead and say that we're going ahead with the website and the salary adjustments. I don't know how much to put in for that, but we have basically all but promised that.
How long is it before we get a report back from the company regarding,
We'll hear again tomorrow for the second time.
We haven't had a vote on that yet, have we?
No,
Okay.
no. But I think we need to decide what we really want so that Deb can come up with fairly firm numbers for us to look at. And if you're not comfortable with the first number we talked about, then you best be finding some money somewhere in the budget to move it around.
For the postage for $10,000, can we email our tax and water bills and save a good portion of that? Does our software not allow us to do that?
We can, you can add the service, there will be an additional cost to it. But a lot of our people still come in with cash with the tax bill. They're not comfortable in doing anything on a computer. Is that gonna change in the next 10 years? I hope so. But it's going to be a cost to provide that service. And I don't think it's gonna be a cost that we're gonna see a return on. We've looked at it a couple of times, the demand for it. We don't get people coming in after emails.
No, but if we say, hey, we're gonna start emailing, you might have 75% of the people going, okay.
You might have 20% of the people going okay and 100% of the cost, like regardless of how many people are signing on to it. If we're offering it as a service, we're fronting that cost.
I think it's worthwhile exploring the cost of it, just based on, my experience from what I've seen. Many people have chosen to get their hydro bills emailed. It's the way of the world, and could potentially save money in the long run. So if it costs money now to implement it, and we get people on board, there are lots of people, if people can order from Amazon, they can get their bills emailed.
But then if you take a look at our census and the age of the people, not all of our ratepayers, I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
that, but the people who live here
Mhm.
and the age of them, like, are all of them familiar with using a computer? Or are you going to have it or were you talking about looking at it like as a service that people just sign into? You would sign up for it.
You often, just like the mill has done and Ontario Hydro has done, you can choose to have it and go paperless. And lots of people choose to do that.
I know the last time I looked at it, the cost for the size of the township was more prohibitive than paying the postage. Now, I don't know, like, we're gonna pay a set amount to add the module to our software. So I can see if the pricing has changed, but at the time that it was investigated, that was the,
And would it be an ongoing cost, Deb, or just?
and there's an
Annual fee for it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely worth looking at. And it's worth, I apologize, but I do think we should.
Well, yeah, cause that's just the postage. We got, the envelopes and the paper and the ink all on top of that, right? So,
And the time it takes to put them in.
And your water bills and stuff, load every month. So
yeah. Yeah, so that adds up.
So far, we've decided to add in the website, I believe, and the repayment of Red Lodge Road. The repayment to the reserve. I don't think it's in our, budget to add a sander for the pickup or a new water tank for dust suppression, even though we do desperately need them. We have 2 roads that are disgusting, and even though they would get hard topped or resurfaced next year, I think they're past the point. I'm not an engineer, but I think they're past the point of just resurfacing, and that is from the end of the pavement on Queen Street to my friend's inn. That portion of road is terrible. I believe it needs double lift, and Sprague Street is terrible. And
so you say double up, so that's not current chip, that's pavement out there, is it not?
Queen Street is asphalt. Sprague is, I think, a double circle.
Queen Street only goes to Janet's, I believe, in pavement.
No, it stops at, Campbell Street. Before Campbell Street.
Campbell Street,
So Campbell Street to
Campbell Street to
Michael's.
Michael's Bay Road.
You would change that from hard top to a surface treatment? Or would you put it back as full hard top?
Hard.
Like it's asphalt, sorry.
Yeah.
That's significant cost.
It's a significant cost, and the cost is raised if no one is setting up an asphalt plant in the area. Like,
Yeah.
we know all the municipalities do tar and chip every year. Asphalt is really dependent on whether the province is doing a project or not. I'd really love to do asphalt. I'm not sure we're gonna find the opportunity to do it.
But it's just the tar and chip really that's broken up. Right?
It's the worst part of it.
It's the worst part of it.
Yes.
And we have to remember too, that whatever we do, the top surface of those roads, we're covering up our old infrastructure, water and sewer and all the lines that are running through that are aging. So
That's
they could really find them torn up again. Because you have a number of water main breaks.
So that from Michael's Bay out doesn't have any service on it, is that correct? The water line's off to the back.
The water line's off to the side on
And there's no
that
sewer.
road, yes.
So
Yes.
fixing that
That's
section of road
a,
wouldn't affect it.
that's a lesser risk, yes.
It would be a hefty chunk of cash, I think, to do it, but if we don't do it this year, say we're just gonna fill the potholes, try and get through the year, because next year it's designed to get its surface treatment. And we find out that we run into the same, position that we were out on Birch Street, where we had to tear it up and then put a double lift down. Then maybe we should put a little bit extra money, like we've got 200 put away for our resurfacing next year. Maybe we should add a little bit this year to cover that, because I think Sprague Street, I think they're gonna tell us we're in the same position. And like I said, I'm not an engineer. Sprague Street is really rough too.
At what point do they bring in a machine and grind it? Like, we just keep adding gravel on top of these roads and they just get higher and higher and higher.
They don't get higher, put us down.
No,
I'm not aware of anyone who grinds tar and chip. I'm aware of companies that grind asphalt. So tar and chip is usually destroyed enough that you're not salvaging anything.
I think we tore it up as a grader on Birch Street. Ronnie tore it up as a
Yeah,
grader.
and then we let it.
Yeah, we let it sit for the winter. Yeah.
We have asked, a company that's scheduled to do work in Wiki this spring. They're supposed to be over sometime in the next 2 weeks, and Steve's been in touch with them to ask them to take a look at both of those streets and give us a price. And then give us
Which
their,
two streets?
that section of Queen Street and Sprague Street. And give us their recommendation. We just don't have it yet.
But I think we need to really keep that at the top of the list, keep it in mind.
And Michael's Bay Road.
And Bay Road,
Bay, more closer to, my friend's in, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
and it's on pavement. So are we replacing that with pavement? Are we tearing it up and putting down our top?
That I can answer, but.
I know, but that's something we have to make a decision on, yes. Yeah,
Just keep it in our mind.
yeah, those 3 roads.
so all the roads in town
Mhm.
are tar and chip.
With the exception of Queen Arthur, Meredith.
It's easier too, isn't it?
But
Isn't it?
Michael's Bay is asphalt?
That small, there's a section of Michael's Bay that's asphalt. I don't think the whole thing is. Oh,
Why wouldn't we go back to tar and chip on their hard surface
Yeah.
instead of asphalt? Like, they need to be fixed, and the
I know.
easiest way to fix it is tar and chip.
Yeah. It's way cheaper than pavement.
I've never been opposed to tar and chip.
No.
It's easy to maintain.
Yeah.
And it works well.
And I think it's going to work better if we get on the 6-year cycle. Although we have a few roads that need to be on the 3-year cycle. And so Sprague is one for sure.
So this cycle that we're putting tar and chip on these roads, we're putting it on every 3 years. Because there's no base under them and they continue to move and deteriorate the top.
the quality of, the contractors say it's the quality of the gravel. The gravel suppliers say it's the quality of the emulsion. There was a change in the standard of the emulsion to be more environmentally friendly. I want to say sometime within the last 10 years,
Yeah.
you can really see the difference. If we could go back to the old tar and chip, like we had an original cycle of 7 years. We found that we're losing them at 4.5 to 5. And I believe it's because the emulsion isn't the same formula that it used to be. But I'm not arguing that sometimes the gravel isn't quite what it could be either, but you tender and that's.
So it's not the basis of the road that's causing us a problem.
No, I don't believe so. No. We need to stop and think about it. Queen, and particularly Sprague are probably our most heavily used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the roads outside of town for that, but yeah.
Yeah,
And that's why I think we have just a few roads that, like every 6 years, is going to keep them in really decent shape. But you get your heavier traveled roads and they actually need to be done on the 3. So we're gonna have to pull a few of them into every 3 years. Okay,
So when are we gonna get a figure for the costs associated with that?
as soon as and then it will depend on how much snow we get between now and.
Talking a few weeks?
Probably. We hope it will be before the end of the month, but I'm suspecting it will be by
Mhm.
So the repayment of the reserves for Red Lots Road and the roads, that's the two items that we're prioritizing on this list.
With the website.
I think the website has to be
Website.
prioritized too.
Well, the other large ticket item, of course, is the landfill extension line. And we haven't made any progress on our directive that we had with regards to proposals that we're taking.
Landowners have been contacted. Still within the period of order gave them to contact. No official bylaw.
And I think salary adjustments have to be high on the priority there too.
Yes, we've made that a priority in discussions, so.
Yeah.
Definitely support that. But again, we're waiting on the company to give us prices. Yeah, so it's hard to just.
Yeah.
Do
Predict.
you think it's, important for people to realize that 3 budgets ago, there was a capital amount for capital that was about 340,000 they had to work with.
Mhm.
But when you keep not raising taxes or just bare minimum, you use all your capital money just to pay, when you look at these ones here, just to pay the increases on what they're asking for. And then we end up in this mess where we don't have any money for capital. And we're looking at fairly substantial tax rate hike.
I can comment one thing, and I do agree with you.
Yes.
But it's all about balances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, Saginaw Township has been rumored to be the highest taxed community right now. It's not, we know it's not.
Yeah.
But we are the second highest, I think, if we compare ourselves to other municipalities on the island. And I think that's what all previous councils have been probably trying to do, is to keep the tax dollars down for people. And which is what we want to do as well, you know, so, but at the same time, we also have to pay for the costs for the services. So we have to find that balance and,
Yeah,
that's
because
where we
I-
are today.
But if we look at each item, like the example, the building department, the mileage was 11,765. And our permits were only at 67% for the year before. So, and I had another, like, the budget for Parks and Rec. I've looked at Central and Mimi. Their budget is way smaller. So I think if we look at each thing, we might be able to come up with a way to save 2 or 3%. Like there's a lot of little stuff that adds up to a lot of big stuff.
One of the things that I jumped out at me was, page 73 on the outside services, recycling transportation. So. Basically, just put on it as a minute. Nothing there to see, but.
page 73.
With our agreement with Circular, does that not really resolve us to like $75,000?
It should resolve us of 2/3 of that cost, yes.
2/3.
Yes, because we're still using them now until the 1st of April.
Sorry?
We're still using them now, so the
Yeah.
first third of the year, yeah,
Okay,
yes, yes.
and then 100% savings next, because it's all paid for by.
Yes. Yes.
I agree in a tax increase, but I also agree in a decrease in spending, whatever that looks like. Like I said, if we look at each item, there's ways of saving money.
I think if you look at page 38. The tech coordinator was asking for an increase in their total budget. I think we can take that out of there. The budget was 66,000. That included the grant money that had come in. So just because the grant money didn't come in this year, we do have it. I want to assure people we do. We can take that out of the reserve. However, I don't think we need to increase it by 22,500. I don't think we have anything to make up for.
So you're gonna cancel all these programs?
No. So they did all that programming with 66,000 last year. The 66,000 included the grant money,
How much was the grant?
right, Deb?
It didn't include it.
Other years I've budgeted to transfer from reserves instead of putting the grant, maybe if the grant money wasn't given. We got the grant money, I didn't have to transfer money from reserves. So that money is, like, I still have been showing it the same way as I always have. So the money can come from reserves to make up for not getting the grant money. If you look at,
So the 2024 total budget was 88,500.
no, it was only 60. For 2024,
2025
2024,
is 87.5.
yes. So
2024 was
2024 was
66.
66, but there was budget money on top of that. Was it not?
66,000, the total that was spent included the seniors programming. On the revenue side of it, I included transfer from reserve because I didn't budget for the grants because they're never given.
Okay,
That transfer reserves was there and we never had to touch it. So it's still there. There's approximately 130,000 sitting in reserves.
I don't think we need to budget 88,000.
Absolutely not. I've got lots of, on that one, over on page 98. 4,000 for fireworks. I think for fireworks, we apply for a grant. If we get it, we get the fireworks. If not,
those are grants. You know, fireworks one for Canada Day is grants.
For Canada Day.
You know, this, okay, June 80,
98.
98.
But
Because
if,
that moved it on the grant this year, it's gonna split into places.
Yeah, so from you. But yeah, so.
but we
that
don't know if we're getting
$4,000
that grant.
Not yet.
Right, so should we, I don't even think it should be part of the budget. If we get it, we hold fireworks. If we don't, we don't. And advertising, 1,500. Do we pay money to advertise on our Facebook page?
She has run ads on Facebook, but then there are ads in Expositor, she's run radio ads.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 1,500 for that, wow, that was really high, but yeah. Now, is this?
Mhm.
Okay, so 9,000 for materials and supplies, summer programming, 7,000, adult senior programming, 48,000. I'm just going over this because like I said, I looked at Central's and Mimi's today. Central, their events budget is $10,000.
But then they get grants on top of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, see,
Their
theirs
grant
is
was
not that one.
21,900.
Okay, so their total budget is 31,000 then.
No, sorry, 11,009 was the grant, plus their 10 for a total of 21,900.
21.
That's a huge difference from this one. And I know Mimi's is even smaller.
But they don't run very many programs like we do.
No,
So I think that's something we have to decide. Are we still offering this?
No, like they offer comparable. If
I'd
you,
I'd like to see their numbers in comparison to ours.
if you look at what's happening, just from what I see advertised on Facebook for Nimi, they're doing cooking lessons and.
For Nimi, yes.
Stuff.
And I did,
Navy does charge user fees too.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I was
Yeah,
at the
and so
seniors
do-
fitness today, and the seniors pay a minimal amount, minimal. But they all said they're willing to pay more. So how Mimi works is, let's say the one thing is $150 at $20 a person, you need a minimum of 8 people. So if they get 12 people, they got 4 people paying the extra, so the next time they might only have 6. But they always pay for themselves, even if it's over the long term. I think we need to go in that direction with this stuff.
To have a minimal cover, like a cover charge type
Yeah.
of thing?
I do not want to cancel it. I'm all for all the senior programming and everything, but not to the point where we're spending $87,000 on all of it.
No, and I think to begin with, we can drop that to 66, at least
I
at
would
the
like-
start of last year.
I would like to go even lower, to be honest.
Well,
I would agree to start back at the 66 of the cost last year. When we hire somebody into that position, then we can work with them to see if we can reduce costs moving forward. But I think just to blatant, to randomly start taking numbers off and canceling programs right now is a little bit premature.
you know, I think if we, have like a basic And I'm just throwing this out there, like $5 for an exercise class or whatever. Like, and then that comes back as revenue to the program too.
That's
Right.
happening now.
I'm
And
not
a lot of
sure.
the programming is coming back as.
Some of the programming, some of it's.
A lot of it has been free this year.
The ones through the grants have been free, but any of the ones that are paid for by the municipality
Mhm.
are pay per use.
I think they've been a combination. Some of them.
Yes.
And some
Yeah.
of them free, and the free
Right.
ones were supported by the seniors grant. That's the way I understand it. And again, I'm all in favor of that as well. You know, where there's a grant that's applicable, you can take advantage of, then let's go for it. But as far as pay for use, you know, we want to be able to provide something that's cost effective for our ratepayers again. And, I think I agree with the notion of, you know, small service charge. So if it is something like $5 or $10 or whatever it might be in some cases, which I've seen that come as well, that's good value for people.
Mhm.
If you're doing a paint class or something to that effect, then it is worthwhile.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to, for my granddaughter to pay $10 for her craft that she's going to, for example. You know what I mean?
We're also providing the facility and support staff and all that sort of thing as well.
Absolutely. And even the summer programming for swimming lessons, does each child pay for swimming lessons?
Mhm.
So that's almost a pay-per-use program too. So do we need to budget $7,000 for that?
So what's the revenue from the swimming lessons, do you know that, offhand? Like, what offset? What's that to do?
It is, I think it was. Must have been under the fact. I don't know where it's off the top of my head.
Well,
But there
of
is.
course, there's a lot of numbers here.
Yeah.
Well, seeing as we're looking at that area, we might as well look at the, arena. I don't think we can keep the rate at $50 an hour.
$66,000 in budget, that is fine. Servicing those people.
I would use that.
Are you okay with that?
I would like it lower, but. I'm
Well,
one
it
person.
could be an outflow relative to whatever program.
If we agree that our starting point is gonna be the 66,000,
Yeah.
and then we'll.
Yeses.
4. Yeah. Okay, so page 100. It'll give you an, arena hourly rate comparison.
Yeah, we're very low.
Yes.
Right, right,
It
right.
doesn't cost us any less to make the ice.
No,
It costs us the same as everybody else to make the ice.
is the next lowest one 70
Mhm.
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
and Central?
And Central.
Central, it's having an issue with their.
Yes. I don't know if that happens or
So they
not.
also have a lower rate for either minor hockey or last minute hockey students, right? So, do we need to look at different rates then?
We established that $50 rate, I think, during COVID, didn't we?
No, it used to be, we just increased it last year.
No, it was up to 95 before COVID.
We reduced it.
Yeah,
But it was even lower though, it was 45, and then we increased it
Yeah.
to 50.
Last year, we increased by $5.
yes,
That's right.
yes.
And then you're right, it was at $90 an hour, but the numbers showed that it was not getting used. The arena's costing us the same amount of money regardless if everybody's in it. So if you charge $90 an hour and you rent it 5 times a year, you charge $50 an hour and you rent it 20 times,
Yeah. we
you're getting
don't-
more use out of it.
We're getting more use, we're not,
So you're,
like, our cost is our cost, it
That's right.
doesn't fluctuate very much.
so I think
Yeah.
to keep it at $50 an hour, there's a lot of young kids that are able to come up with $50 with the parents' help that could have the ability to use it and use it quite regularly. If you increase the price, those children are not gonna be on that ice surface, and you're gonna see a reduction in the amount of time that is used. And we're already paying staff, full-time staff member to be there. So I would very much hesitate to ever consider changing that at this point.
It's a lost leader.
It is, and again, I've always been, supportive of the mental health and especially the kids in the community, and I think you're doing them a disservice if you increase the price.
So you're not increasing the price by anything, not even
I
5?
would keep it at 50.
The
But
arena
it
costs us a
doesn't-
lot of money.
Yeah, but so you increased it by $5. What was the rental total usage last year? I said. So 2023, the ice spent 500, almost 600 uses, if I read this correctly. So here, bottom of page 99. So it shows you your prices. Back in 2019, it was $91 an hour and we used it 9 times. Last year it was $50 and it was rented 305 times. So,
That is a huge increase.
yeah, so if you increase it by $5, yeah, you're making $50 and $100 more. But you're also starting to put it out of the price range of high school students being able to rent the facility. So again,
I was wondering about different levels though, like, whether we went up $50 and kept it at 50 for a student, for example. I guess then everybody's got a student that's gonna.
well,
right?
that's it. Everybody
Yeah.
has a student that will
Yeah.
come with them, and then you're splitting, in minor hockey
Yeah.
rates versus private rates. They're one of our biggest users. I think the numbers are good. I think the place is used and it justifies us maintaining the building. And like I said, it's gonna cost us regardless if anybody's on the ice. So I'd be hesitant to raise the rental of that ice.
And so the next question is, are we making ice at the same time as we have been? Because our fall months are getting warmer and warmer. It gets very expensive to make ice when it's 15 degrees outside. So I'm just asking the question.
No, so we're looking at pushing it back a week. 2 weeks, but does that due to the schedule of minor hockey, all that type of stuff? I know it's,
My understanding is a lot of areas are considering it pushing the season back 1 or 2 weeks. I don't know if there's a consensus yet. We pretty much have to ask minor hockey, what's going on. But I could easily see pushing ours back 2 weeks if, we ran all of November with the plant running full time to make ice because it wasn't below zero.
I know it does put our
Yeah.
players at a disadvantage by not having that extra couple of weeks compared to
Yes.
other municipalities. So if we were on line with when they were putting in their ice, I would certainly agree with that. I would like to see us reach out to them and see if everybody's kind of or we have a consensus of going a week or two later to save some of the cost. Absolutely, I would agree with that.
Okay, what about you, Jen?
I don't see an issue with raising it to $60 an hour. Like, that's still very inexpensive. That's still at least $35 cheaper than everybody on this side of the island, right?
Mm-hmm.
Province Bay is 70, and Central is 70.
Yes, but that's the other side of the island. If you're gonna drive a half an hour extra to go to Province Bay to spend 70, then you're gonna do that anyway. Like, to me,
I wasn't really thinking about that.
yeah, like for me, it's the drive time, right? So,
I was thinking of citizens from Province Bay versus citizens from Signal Township. So in other words, if the citizens there are paying that much more
Yeah.
than what people are paying here, right? And so, the bottom line is we still have to be viable with everything that we do. We have to maintain that viability. And that's the same argument we've been complaining about the whole time. That we've not been putting taxes up according to what you might feel is appropriate per year, right? We'll have our different arguments for these things, but I think that a very small increase would be warranted because we're still going to be under par with all those other communities that share the same island as us. So, if we were up $5, that's a 10% increase. That's significant enough, but it's not overwhelming. And we're still way under what everybody else is offering for the same service
Mm-hmm.
and a fairly recent, updated facility. So I would actually be in favor of raising it to $55 an hour. And then also look at the schedule with regards to whether that means with the scheduling for minor hockey as to whether it would impact their year or not. And if it doesn't have any negative impact on the users, then maybe we could consider, moving back a week or whatever it might be, or 2 weeks in order to put the ice in then to have a cost effectiveness and savings there.
I think we should check with minor hockey then.
But they have to determine that for us.
Yeah, yeah.
So that may be,
If you look at even just the amount that, the hydro increased this year compared to last year to Maisie, the extra $5 an hour may not even cover that extra hydro.
yeah, that's why I think we
No.
have to realize.
Like, we
it's
can't
small.
keep going backwards.
Yeah, a small increase, but nothing that's overwhelming. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I run the ice frequently and I am not opposed to a $5 increase at all. It's still very affordable. I hear what Dwayne's saying and I'm agreeing, but many of them can afford a $5 coffee, for example, too. So it's gonna come down to, you know, if you want the arena, $5 extra. I don't think, I would hate to see it go to 100, that's unreasonable, but to 55, I think is definitely reasonable.
And it also gives us the opportunity to put on special programming, for example, like, you know, free skating for Christmas or something to that effect, right? That everybody can benefit.
I think we get out sponsors for all of that.
We do, but
Yeah.
the township is sponsored pretty well, so those are things to bear in mind as well.
Yeah.
So we're losing that power, right, when we do that. So I think that would be a fair approach. First,
okay. So 55,
I think everybody else agrees.
I think that's too little, but
I would support what Robert said, the later start date, continuing on minor hockey and other island arenas, as well as $55 an hour increase, provided that $5 an hour extra is slotted for public skating events. Like that $5 that we're collecting extra, it specifically goes to buy ice time for the community.
Well, that,
oh, that doesn't
That's-
pay for the hydro then.
whoever runs it
Yes,
isn't, like if I rent
So-
it,
so
it
you-
might not
you're
be
gonna pay
open to
five-
the public.
no, you're right, so you're paying an extra $5 this year.
Right.
Okay, so your extra $5 that you pay this year,
Mhm.
along with the other 305 people gets collected, and that amount of money of $1,525 is slated for rental of ice surfaces, or ice time for community members, more of these skates.
If I may, I think it's a
Yeah.
good idea, but if I may, I suggest that it goes towards operating, so that it could go towards hydro, for example. That sort of thing.
It's just gonna get
And
lost.
if we choose at the time to provide some free ice time, we can just do that at the time.
It has to get lost in there, like it has to at least partially pay for itself, right?
The arena's costing you regardless if it's over.
Yes,
So I would just, was thinking that the extra $5 that you're going to increase it there now, you could show on paper that it's actually being used down the road for community free public skate. Like $1,500 is not gonna make any difference on the hydro on that building.
but we already cover the cost of free public skating.
Some of the free public, like some of the skating, like not all the skating that, during Christmas is all.
No, that's usually sponsored, right?
So we can sponsor more of those events publicly.
Like privately sponsored.
I think what you're.
Okay, I'm lost there.
The conversation is, we're gonna raise, the rate by 10%. What Councilor is saying is, we want to demonstrate to the public that they're getting a benefit from that, other than just covering our costs. Our costs are,
Not being covered, okay?
no, but they've never been covered.
No,
No arena,
no,
other than one in Sudbury, covers the cost.
no.
But it's, we're raising our revenue, but we're also offering additional services. It's still all within that same envelope. We're not getting closer to covering our costs, but we're giving services, we're giving additional services to the community in the facility.
so am I calling, so like, instead of having just the Friday night public skating and the Saturday afternoon public skating, an extra hour of public skating, is that what you mean? During the week?
Just saying that we should be able to offer extra time. I'm not saying when, we're hiring a new person, you know, that we can show it and document that, yeah, we're charging you an extra 10%, another $5. But there's also gonna be benefits to the community down the road that people can take part in.
I think forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's just ratepayers that are renting our ice at $50 an hour. It's a lot of people are renting our ice at $50 an hour because it's significantly cheaper than renting it in their areas, is my understanding from last year when we had the same discussion. I don't disagree with you to be offering more is fabulous, but I think getting the ice for $55 an hour is enough of a benefit. I don't think we have to give a further benefit. I think if we're giving a further benefit, it's because we have the ability to, not based on $55 an hour.
I agree with you, Jen, because, I mean, we could raise the rate to $55 and you could say, well, you have more free skating. You're still getting the same group, but you're asking all of our ratepayers to pay for the arena. And they're not getting the benefit if they don't skate, right? I have no problem offering more free skating. The ice is there.
Yes.
I think the $5 increase should go towards the cost, the operating cost, the increase in hydro and all the other additional costs.
Like if we have a new rec director and she wants to have another hour of free skating, I don't see what the problem is with that.
Neither do
Because the ice is there, and if she's there anyway too, if that's part of her hours or his hours or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, doesn't matter. Like, there's no extra cost to that.
I do agree with you, Dwayne. It'd be nice to have a little bit more of the free events. See what happens.
When are the free events? And usually, every time I see a free event, it's been sponsored.
It's usually sponsored.
Well, they usually
Sometimes it's
have,
sponsored by the township,
Yeah.
we just pre-event.
Okay.
yeah, and then they have public skating, right?
Yes.
And you pay for the public skating. It's minimal. It's $2 a person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that cost has been kept low.
Yeah.
And I think it's been good to keep it low. The public skating.
Yeah, I agree.
I wanted to ask something as well. I don't know if this would be agreeable or even something that the township would consider or we would consider, but it seems to me we have a lot of vacant lots in town. And it was brought to my attention actually. And so I've been looking at it, the vacant lots. Is it possible to do a vacant lot, like a levy? Because right now, most of our vacant lots, there's at least 20 of them in the town plot, at least 20, perhaps 30 or more, that they are assessed at 10,600. So their tax rate's what, $350 a year. If we were to do a levy of between 8 to 12% on, if you have a water service, you're in the town plot, you got an 8 to 12% levy. I think it would help spur on perhaps development of those lots or some kind of action on them. A lot of them are unkempt, as we know, but it would be about $1,000 extra for each of those lots. So it might encourage those people who have held on to lots for years and years and years and done nothing with them to either sell them or develop them, number one, but it would also help to get the taxes a little bit lower. Because that would be what, 1%.
And adding on to that, Jen, how many lots throughout a Signac do we own? And, you know, can we look at putting them up for sale and possibly getting revenue, tax revenue on them? That's all tax revenue we're missing out on.
Not sure that we can put a special levy on it, so we have to look into that.
I believe Sault Marie has
Sault
done it.
Marie did it.
Okay.
They didn't present it. I don't know if it was approved.
Okay, well, we'll look into it then, that, I have a problem with that. We don't own a lot of lots. The lots we end up with are lots that won't sell through a tax sale. So there's either a title issue or there's an access issue, so that it wouldn't be an arm's length fair market value type of sale. We're not holding a lot of prime properties.
Not prime, but let's get rid of it, even if we collect $500 on anything. It all adds up to revenue and we're just hanging on to it for nothing, for no reason.
We get it because nobody wants it.
Just give it away.
Something to notice, or to note as well, that there are vacant lots in the community that people are paying frontage charges on for water. For example, and they've been paying that ongoing since the first line went in. And that's been an annual cost for something that they don't redeem until the property's developed. So they're paying the frontage and they're contributing towards our water treatment services.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. A ratepayer asked me today, they pay a levy, a water levy. They wanted to know what year that's over. I don't know anything about it.
This year.
This year?
Yeah. End of December 2025.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know anything about it. I'm like, don't know, call the office.
It was our share of the capital to build the plant.
So it's over December 2025.
Some people paid it outright,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
and then we have the option of making payments on it. I think it's like $19.
19 years.
So is Sunsite the same? They're paying the levy on that?
Yeah, it's a
Different rate.
different amount, but yes,
And theirs is done in December also.
yes.
Okay.
But that is the thing that people are paying that don't use.
Mm-hmm.
But they have the water running in front of there. Like they don't pay a water rate like they do in Sunsite, not even twenty.
Yes, sounds
They
like.
just pay their frontage that they got charged.
And what is the water frontage? You know? Phoebe?
I'm not sure what it is.
Oh, for the frontage, that's long going, you know, but just all that's left is this capital charge.
Is the capital charge
Yeah.
$20 a month?
Yes,
Water protection regulation.
Way back when,
way back.
Still minimum cost to have a vacant lot that's doing
fully serviced.
Mhm.
fully serviced.
Well, and the tax increase on them, I think stimulates some development and growth.
That's 100%.
If it's costing more people more money, it's not necessarily as good of investment unless they sell it
Mm-hmm.
or build on it.
That's right.
That's a good idea.
Are we okay with all of those things then to send that back and come back with some figures and relook at it? Or is there something else you want to look at here tonight?
I think more, I just want to see, well, especially like these reserve funds, if we can look at the potential of utilizing those for some of these expenses. I also really truly do feel we need to get those town signs on the must-do list. I think that we set the tone for a town when we pull in and those signs are old, dilapidated, we need new ones.
Okay, I've got those.
And I think we need to have a presentation on where we are with branding.
Oh, for
Like,
sure.
and to be able to see where we're at with moving forward this year versus next year. You know, depending on the branding, she might not have that scheduled till next year. You know what I mean? It would be nice to understand.
Unfortunately, though, the one side of the other end of town is falling apart, like it's coming apart at the seams. We can't just leave them.
I think we've discussed enough about branding and passed an actual policy on it, that if she had some money, she could go forward. There's just nothing in here right now for it. So if we decide that you want to add some money into branding, even if it is just the signs for this year or whatever, then she knows where to go with that.
And I would like to present to every department to try and reduce their cost by 5%. I know some of the things are not in our control, but if everybody looks at every line item in their department, I bet you there are savings.
Does everybody feel that way?
Maybe not specific to 5%, but
No.
where they think that they can be more cost effective, I think is a good idea, always a good idea.
We have two departments that don't have department heads right now.
Well, we already reduced that one by 5%, so we're good there.
Yeah, we're okay, more than that, more than 5%.
We could just say 5% less for that department if we need to, but
Yeah, we brought it down 20,000, so,
Yeah.
back.
My only concern with cuts is if you start cutting, then you're going to be in a situation where things continue to deteriorate and not get fixed. And we're gonna be in a worse situation. Right now, we have a set of stairs that needs to be fixed. We know we have to do some work on the building down here or decide what we're doing with it. If you start cutting into some of these budgets, I think we might end up in a situation where we're having things get more dilapidated than not.
Oh, yeah, it's because if you take a look at, the graphs that Deb made up for us, so many of those areas we can't by anything. And then we start even looking at 5% out of transportation. Well, we've got roads right now that are falling apart that need fixed. So you can't really take 5% out of there. And that is one of our biggest areas is transportation, but I don't think we can start cutting out of there. We need more.
No, but we already said, look at tar and chip versus asphalt. That's a saving.
That's a saving.
That's huge.
But the
It's a savings if you were gonna spend the money in the first
Money.
place.
Yeah.
But there's no money in there.
money's not there.
Right.
I think it's important that the people at home know that when you're saying these numbers, it's like health services, 7.35%, social service, 4.9, policing, all those things. Those numbers have gone up and we can't control them. So we're not sitting here wanting 8%.
No.
We're negotiating 8%
No,
to fix more stuff.
Yes.
We have no money for capital.
No.
These are the costs that have gone up, not necessarily from within the municipalities.
like really even at 8%, there's no capital items in there.
No, and everything you discussed tonight, as far as warning and additions, is not part of that 8%.
No.
Those items aren't even there.
On top of that.
And every $30,000 represents a 1% tax increase.
Yes, so, yes,
Which when you think about it, $30,000 is not a lot of money.
well, it works out to $240,000 at 8%,
Mm-hmm.
so we have a shortfall of $240,000
Yeah, before we do
before we
anything.
do anything.
Yeah.
Can we look at something creative that we can do with that line item with this SRA COVID funding? Because to me, it just looks kind of, COVID is no longer really an issue per se, like from
We
a
can,
pandemic perspective.
we can ask.
Yeah.
And we will, but Deb and I are laying odds, and we know what the response is going to be. Because we're not the first one to think of this, and a lot of municipalities are dealing with a lot more than, a lot larger percentage increases. And we haven't heard of the province being in any way, shape or form willing to entertain.
There may be,
flex.
there may be making us keep that in the case that another pandemic shows up. At least you've got a little bit to start with.
So it's reserved.
It could be where it is right now. Yeah. Talk about it.
It's worth investigating.
Okay. We'll come back with, updated numbers that we can get then. Good,
And potential savings from anybody?
if anybody can find anything. But they've gone through their budgets already, so I don't think you're gonna get much there, but
You never know.
you never know.
Just on page 46, is, cell phone allowance.
Yes,
Okay, who has cell phones? Who by municipality?
we don't. But we're all using our personal cell phones on a very regular basis for township business. And we require with neighboring municipalities and we provide an allowance.
So this line item in here, fringe benefits, including cell phone allowances, does that get paid out to staff?
It has not until you adopt a budget. If you adopt that as part of the budget,
Was it in there last year?
no,
But in the EAP, that's new also?
that was a
That's
request
the-
from council.
That's right, okay. And the sunlight, that's been in there in the past.
Yeah, that's their benefit.
Since before I started.
So how much is the cell phone allowance and what's it equal out to for each staff member?
We were calculating it based on $50 a month, so it's
Yeah.
minimal, yeah.
And it's not for every employee, it's basically the department heads, and, yeah.
And do we have a cost for the EAP or no? We
I've
just
got
kinda,
quotes.
yeah.
I'm still waiting on more.
Now, does the staff feel that's a benefit to them too? Or do they know?
I don't think.
Like, I would like to see if the staff, I agree, it's a great idea, but if the staff is not gonna use it and it's $18,000,
Oh, it's not 18,000.
No.
Won't be any.
The highest quote I have so far is like $6 a month per employee, so
oh,
yeah, it's not.
okay.
Manitowo's magazine, we just have like a thing that, you know?
Yeah.
Just, I was just curious. Like,
That end.
So we're gonna see if the emailing would reduce our cost from $10,000 or,
Oh, that's room for a price again.
okay.
So that's an actual add-on. to
It's
the
an
computer
add-on to
system,
the,
The accounting program.
And we don't have it already?
no, you
Okay.
have to pay extra to have it. Each module is probably, like, we're already paying close to 30,000 a year annually for the maintenance program, so we'll probably add another 3,000 to 5,000 on to add that on.
And you would still have to offer mailing too.
So-
You're posted.
Do we charge $2 for the bill? Cause if I want my Bell Canada bill, I pay $2 a month for it.
with the physical bill?
Yeah,
We don't, but we don't have an option for anything other than that.
right. But if we did implement the emailing one, then we could say if you want paper-based, you're paying $2 a month or a statement, not month, sorry. Cause I know a lot of companies implemented that.
We'll look into it.
Any more questions tonight then? Okay, we do have an in-camera.
We have a motion for that, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Garman. Be it resolved that in accordance with section 239 of the Municipal Act as amended, the council proceeds to a closed session at 8:24 in order to attend to matters pertaining to A, labor relations or employee, and advice subject to client solicitor privilege.
All those in favor? Carried. Night, Rita.
Right.